For today's miniature, we're going to paint a Necron warrior. He has been primered in a light gray primer, and this is going to be just a really simple, quick and dirty paint job. The first color we're going to use is Reaper's Aged Bone, and we're going to paint this in the joints between all the armor plates, so the knee joints, the elbows, the shoulder sockets, things like that. This is just a base coat for the metallic color I'm going to use next. The next color we're going to use is Master Acryl's Steel. This is a metallic paint, so it will have that metallic look to it and be metal flakes, so make sure you have a separate clean out for your brush. And I'm applying this everywhere where I put the aged bone, and I use the aged bone instead of the steel directly because after some trial and error, I just feel like it covers it better and it gives it a better steel look. If I was going with silver, I would use a light gray, but that aged bone makes a good medium gray base. The next color we're going to use is a Reaper Deep Red, and this is going to be the main color of the miniature, and I'm going to paint all the areas that would be in armor, or his ribcage, his head, anything other than the gun and those joints that I've already painted. Obviously, this on this primer, because it's a brighter primer, it will show through pretty easily, so just make sure you take your time and do a couple of layers and you should be good to go. After I got the base red coat on, obviously with a shaky hand, and I misstepped some of the red and I got into the joints, and after I was doing it I did notice a couple of joints that I didn't actually paint before. So these next two quick steps are just the Reaper Aged Bone and the Master Acryl Steel again, just to get those, touch up those joints again. The next step is to use a Citadel wash of Badab Black, and I'm going to liberally apply this to the entire, everything I've painted so far. It'll darken that red up really nicely because I wanted a nice dark red for this miniature, and the steel, it'll really bring out the details in all those joints without having to do any extra shading to it at all. And while we're waiting for that wash to dry, I'm going to go ahead and paint the gun. I'm going to start with a base of a flat black, in this case from Master Acryl, but you can use anybody's flat black. I'm going to paint the entirety of the gun with this flat black. I use the flat black because I don't want the gun to be as a focal point of the miniature. I want the armor to be, so I find using just a really basic bland paint on the gun really helps to bring your focus off of the gun and back onto the miniature. The next color will be Reaper's Forest Green, and I'm just using this to paint the hoses on the bottom of the gun. This aligned with the green rod, so I want to use green hoses and a green glow effect so that it's a green theme throughout the entire gun. The next color on the gun is Reaper's Faded Black. Since I did use just a flat black on the gun, I'm going to use the Faded Black, which is really just a really dark gray, as a highlight on the gun, and just to make it look like it's more than just a black base coat primer. So with the little bit of gray, it'll kind of bring out a little bit more detail. And the next color after Faded Black will be Reaper's Polished Bone, and I'm putting this into those coils of the gun, and I'm using this to create a simple but effective glow effect. The next color for the glow effect would be the Citadel Wash Thraka Green, and I'm applying a pretty good dollop of this paint where I put that polished bone, and this will then dry green in the recesses but leave a light green in towards the top, giving it a simple but really effective glow effect. The The next color after that will be, we're going back to the Reaper's Blood Red, and in this case I am watering it down a little bit more so that we can do a little bit of a layering with this. As you can see, the paint is shiny. That kind of lets you know that it's a little bit more watered down. And I'm picking out the highest points of the model at this point, so probably repainting a little bit more than half of the armor that I did before. After that dries, which doesn't take too long, I go ahead and reapply at the higher points again with the same color, and at each layer you do this to, it'll add a little bit more red and brighten it up just a little bit without really changing the overall color of the miniature. The next color we're bringing is the Reaper Grass Green, and I'm painting those hoses that I did forest green before. I'm just making it brighter, leaving a little bit of that forest green on the edges, just so that it still has a little bit of shading, but I wanted the hoses to be nice and bright. I'm also using the same green to dot the eyes a little bit. The next color is the Buckskin Pale, and this will just be on that Necron symbol on the crest of the miniature. And it's just a really light dry brush. At this point we're ready to base it, so I'm going to use Elmer's Craft all-purpose glue, which is just a standard PVA glue, using an old cruddy tester's brush to apply it to the base. And after this I have a bin full of gravel, and I'm just going to put some of the gravel on there, shake it off, and just to put a little light layer of gravel on it. To add a little bit of color to that, I'm going to apply a little bit more PVA to a couple of spots, just pick a random few spots on the miniature's base, and then I'm going to pick out a couple of greenery that I like, and I'm going to put it on there, and then after that I will kind of dip it in a little bit more of the rest of the flock just to pick up some more of the color without being too picky on what I'm throwing in there. And after that, the miniature is complete, and here's some still frame shots of it. Please leave a comment and like. Thank you for watching.